from children, or if you don't have a child handy, you can use a lamb, but it doesn't really work that well, in order to produce adrenochrome. And that the burnt offerings, when it was done,
it all seems to go back to this adrenochrome.
Right. But here's the point of this, that these people, the other parts of these 613 commandments were all commandments that were about, if you look at them, were all commandments about mind control. Okay, they were commandments of that thou shalt not have meat that has blood in it. So you can't get any external hormones. So you've got to salt all your meat. Everything is all about how the diet must be prepared for the slaves of the L. Okay, the people that are adjudicated by the judges, that the term for the judges is rabbi. Okay, yeah. And so all of this structure is all about mind control. The rituals, everything is about causing specific elements of the mind to be activated and to be maintained. And why? Well, it's to be maintained in order to protect the Khazarians, right? So that you don't see that they're in your midst, et cetera, et cetera. And right. So mind control and psychological warfare is deeply, deeply inculcated into specific religions around the planet. We find similar things in this, I mean, the same kind of rituals, same kind of diet restrictions, salt additions, and all these sorts of things in the Mesoamericans that were given to them by their gods. Okay, we just don't have Hebrew written down to easily be able to extract that the way we can out of the translated version of the Torah. And so we find that there was this time that there were space aliens that were trying to control man's mind through diet, through a heavy salt diet, no hormones of any form. So even with fish, if it had anything like a tuna, if it had a specific kind of a blood in it, you had to do things to get rid of that blood. So
this is the vegan, I mean, this is the vegan push, no meat of all sorts?
At that time,
did they allow any meat? I mean, did they?
Oh, sure. I mean, you know, this is a Jewish.
You could have meat, but not the blood.
Correct.
It had to be,
correct.
Yeah.
And organ meats and stuff had to be treated a specific way, and so on, right? And then we find the opposite if you go to the Codex Oralinda, which is the history of maybe 1,000, 1,200 year history of white people in Europe, and you look at the admonitions of Wotan and the pantheon of gods that the Teutonics listened to, it said, eat the liver, eat the organ meats, right. Pump yourself up, ribeyes for breakfast, that kind of thing, right? So it was the exact opposite of this. And we see that also with the Rus people, with the Turks, okay? So with people around this group that had been captured by the L. It's really complex. We don't have anything close to a real understanding, but you can get some interesting views doing a lot of research into the linguistics, into the origin story, the self-carried origin story of the linguistic, of languages.
Let me ask you about bugs. Okay, so how does that fit in? Because I looked at, to me, what I was startled by is that when you eat this bug flour, you're eating chitin, and chitin is a photonic crystal. It changes wavelength. That's why butterflies look so pretty. That's why, all the different scarab beetles, look different. They're like iridescent when you move them around. So they want us to eat these photonic crystals. Is that part of this?
Okay. All right. So there's never a single reason, right?
Right.
Okay. So I think they're of the opinion that the intake of specific crystalline substances can affect the microcrystals in our brains.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
And it is possible to affect the microcrystals in the brains by a number of different ways, as we see, again, going back to the diet restrictions that are in the actual Torah, the 613, 400 and some odd of them, going to the idea that your diet is restricted to these things in this particular way, but the L